Every day you wake up with some type of worry, whether it's from what's going on in the political world and you're going to worry about how it's going to impact your life. You inward, you don't belong here. This is our place. That's not what it is. I get invited into their table. I get invited into their home or into a conversation. That's not what racism does. Racism rejects you. Like, I should have stayed and suffered because he couldn't leave. This move has healed me. It's healed me through my grief because I had given up on life. I thought I had nothing else to bring forth. Being a digital nomad is like a gift because you're free. Don't talk yourself out of it. Don't fear it.
Ever wondered what motivates someone to pack up, sell everything that they own, and move halfway across the world? Well, in this upcoming series of interviews, I'll be diving deep into the lives of expats and digital nomads who have done just that. In this first episode, I'm sitting down with Jonathan Williams, a good friend of mine who has faced unimaginable loss. We'll be discussing what life has been like for John here in Thailand, whether or not he feels like racism exists out here, and how making the move to Thailand has been instrumental in his fight against depression. Throughout this series, you're going to meet a diverse range of individuals, each with their own unique motivations, challenges, and experiences. It's my hope that these interviews will inspire you as much as they have done me, and that they'll also challenge you to step outside of your own comfort zone. Enjoy.
I'm Jonathan Williams from United States of America. I came here straight from Las Vegas. That's where I was living, but I've lived all over the country in the United States.
And where are you originally from?
New York City. Born and raised, native New Yorker.
And what were you doing in the US before you came here to Thailand?
Well, immediately before I came to Thailand, in America for like maybe 2 years, I was just dealing with the effects of COVID. I had a coaching business where I coached men who had either been recently divorced or dealing with child support, child custody issues. And I would coach them on how to navigate the court system to protect themselves in their rights to their children. Because often in America, what happens is men go into court and don't really know what to expect and don't know the right things to say. And before they know it, they've lost custody of their kids. Everything is up to the mom. And it becomes an ongoing 18-year battle just to see your kids or just to have your custody time with your kids. And child support laws really, really hurt men. They'll take your driver's license so you can't drive, which means you can't get to work. It's just so many problems that men find themselves involved in over their children. And my coaching was pretty much telling them how to prepare themselves for court, how to present themselves, what things mean when they hear it in court, how to anticipate what's going to happen, what's going to be introduced against them, because it's always the same. And I was helping men fight for their children. And many of them were successful in maintaining, fair and equitable access to their children. COVID hit, and that pretty much came to an end because work stopped for a lot of people, income changed for a lot of people, and people had to focus on necessities, what they really needed to pay for in life to survive. And what I provided just wasn't one of those things. So the last 2 or so years was myself and Travis just traveling around the country in an RV, and exploring America and living in different places, learning about different views of life and how different the country can be when you travel from one area to another.
So you already had the idea to go travel and to do stuff. How did you go from the van life, we will call it, the RV life, because that's pretty big. A lot of nomads do the, I guess if they're not traveling around the world, they're traveling around in a van or something.
True, yeah.
How did you go from that to Thailand?
Well, it's funny because during the first year that we were RVing, we were in Colorado. And I went to a auto store for auto parts. And there was a man in line in front of us, a white man. And he was talking to the cashier. And I keep in mind, in the background what's going on is all of this talk about a wall and borders was the main talk in American politics at this time. And I overhear the man say to the cashier, oh, in 2 years, I'm going to retire and I'm going to just move to Thailand. I said, excuse me. I said, I couldn't help but overhearing you talk about your retirement plans to Thailand. He says, listen, this country lies to you. He says, you traveling is one of the most freest things you can do with your life. It sets your wings free. You can go and visit other places and learn other cultures. He said, in fact, I encourage you, when you go home, look up Thailand on YouTube. Look up this city called Chiang Mai, Thailand. And just watch the videos. He said, you're going to like what you see. After speaking with him, I felt encouraged. Travis and I both. We went back to the RV and started watching videos on Chiang Mai in Thailand. And we did. We fell in love with what we saw. I have never traveled internationally before. Never, ever even thought about the idea of moving permanently was non-existent. Traveling for vacation was always in the back of my mind, but it always felt so complicated. I used to watch shows like Locked Up Abroad. So I was convinced that if I go to visit Egypt or any of the other major touristy countries where people like to go, I'm probably going to end up in jail. I'm so naive to travel. Someone is going to put something in my bag, or I'm going to think I can just carry this little thing with me and I'll be okay, and it's going to backfire. So I had this fear of international travel. Once the idea became, yes, we think we want to try to look into this place to live there, we began to look for videos about life in Thailand, in Chiang Mai. Not so much the tourist perspective, but the living here perspective. And that's how I found you about 4 years ago, give or take. And started watching your videos. One of the first ones I remember watching, you were walking through the city talking about being a teacher or working here and what it was like. I remember you stopping near a bridge or something. I can't be specific now, it's been so long, but he and I watched and we said, this guy is giving us the information we need. He's not talking about where to eat, how to save a little money on this street market versus that one. He's telling us the law. And he's telling us how he survives here. And that's what we need to know. We decided to go back to Florida to check on the house and figure out, how do I leave my house? It was a 5-bedroom, 3-bathroom house in the middle of Florida. Like, how do I go to another country and leave this house? I didn't want, everyone said, well, just rent it. You can make some extra money. Yeah, that's great. But I also know what happens when you rent your house out and you're not in the country. Your house gets destroyed and it ends up costing you more. And you have to pay a management company. I didn't want any headaches. So I figured I'd sell the house. I let it go. And we began to work on doing that. The date came. Now I had 3 dogs at the time. 3 dogs. We did everything. I booked the flight, paid for the flights. We had reserved a condo at Condo D. Purchased things, did all the things we had to do. So we go to the airport and we're sitting in the airport. We checked in and everything. We're at the gate. And I looked at him and I said, you know, everybody else understands what we're doing. But our dogs, they just feel abandoned. They've just been left. Like, I don't know that we can do that. I don't feel good. We were very close to our dogs, like kids. And we left the airport and went back home and decided that we were going to have to wait until the dogs die, because I'm an animal lover. I'm loyal to my pets. And for me to just leave them for good, I just felt like they were going to feel the abandonment. That's how I felt. So we decided to postpone it and went back to the house, went back on the road again, took the dogs with us and said, Thailand is going to be there. Let's just figure out how we're going to get these dogs. So over time, just continue to travel, going back to Florida, back on the road again. Of course, you know, the dogs naturally lost their life, you know, at different stages. And we ended up with just one dog and one cat. And at this time, we were living in Vegas, and I lost Travis a year ago, actually. In September of 2022, we went to a lake, and unfortunately, he drowned while we were at that lake, leaving me by myself in a state that I didn't have any family or friend connections. It was just me and him. The only friends that I had were his co-worker, who had become his best friend, and his family, and another RV family that lived in the park. They just became my neighbor friends. But other than that, I was grieving alone. I was in immense pain. And of course, every plan to move to Thailand, to move anywhere, always included the both of us. There was never a consideration of doing it by myself. I didn't know what I was going to do with myself or my life. In fact, to be quite honest, I wanted to die too. I just wanted to go be where he was. The only reason why I didn't was I still have a mother and a sister and a brother at that time. And I knew that my loss would devastate them. So I dealt with my pain, and I don't know how it happened, but maybe October, November, maybe I was flipping through YouTube again, and maybe an old video showed up from Chiang Mai, or maybe even one of yours, and the idea resurfaced. In fact, actually, Brett, to be honest, having mentioned that, it was you. It wasn't another video on YouTube. It was either an email or something I saw from you that piqued my interest again. It made me say, okay, maybe I can do this by myself. I can't stay here in Las Vegas. I have nowhere else to go. I don't want to go back to Florida. I don't want to go back to New York. Colorado, no. Like, where am I going to go? I started re-engaging Chiang Mai videos, and I signed up with your Nomad school and began to talk to other members in the school. And I decided, yes, I'm going to do this. I didn't tell anyone right away. Naysayers. Oh, you're just thinking like that because you're in grief. You know the things people would say. They try to talk you out of it. I ended up getting contacted by a medium that I did not know. I had no prior relationship with her whatsoever. And she, at first, of course, there was skepticism. Travis's passing was publicized in the news media. But she began to tell me things that I couldn't figure out how she could possibly know any other way. So I began to listen to her. And one of the things that she told me was that Travis was still communicating through her to me. And there were some things that she said that allowed me to believe it, allowed me to believe that she was legitimate. And she mentioned Chiang Mai. There's no reason for her to have known that. And that Travis wanted me to go. I got here on February 23rd. My concern about finding a place to live was alleviated immediately when I got here. In America, getting a place to live, an apartment, a house, is not a simple process. It can take some time. There's a lot of paperwork, background checks, credit checks, whatever have you. I was here for less than 48 hours and had already signed a contract for a condo. That really impressed me. There's no way that's going to happen in America. You can't even rent a room that quickly in America.
And what would you say is the toughest thing of all of moving to a foreign country like Thailand?
One of the biggest challenges is the language and trying to get people to understand what I'm saying to them or what I'm asking of them. To try to combat that, I enrolled in Thai language school. And I've been taking the classes for about 4 months now. The issue is they teach you to learn the words, to memorize vocabulary. They don't necessarily teach you to speak the language in full sentences. So that has hindered me a bit with being able to talk to people. I can understand a lot of what's said to me, but responding in Thai is still a challenge.
So it takes a little while to adjust.
It does.
Over time.
It hasn't been a year. It's been about 8 months that I've been here. I will say this, in this 8 months, I'm told by other people that I've gotten a lot of things accomplished that a lot of people who move here take a longer time to acquire. So I have both my driver's licenses. You know, I've bought a car, bought a bike. I have my bank account set up. The residential stuff is all set up and done. I'm in the university. I'm taking courses for teaching at the university presently. And I'm making friends. In America, I dealt with severe depression on a day-to-day basis. There was so much going on in life beyond my control that every day you wake up with some type of worry, whether it's from what's going on in the political world and you're going to worry about how it's going to impact your life, or if I have to worry about, catching COVID because they can't control it. Every day there was something. Mass shootings at places near where I lived, crime, violence, racism. Depression eats at you. It robs you of your life. I have so many skills and so many talents that I loved and could have been using, but depression it empties you and I felt like a hollow shell. Losing Travis made that even worse. Coming here, I was dealing with grief. Grief and depression can look and feel very similar. Sometimes they feed off of each other. So for like the first month or two, I was still struggling a little bit. I mean, everything was new. I missed him terribly. And I also had survivor's guilt because we were both in the water. And I was having struggles to get out of the water, to get back onto the boat. And he was involved in trying to help me. And then as a result, ended up in a position in the water that caused him to lose his life. So I was dealing with survivor's guilt, dealing with being here without him, knowing how badly he wanted to be here too. I felt like maybe this might sound a little twisted, but I felt like maybe I was cheating him by leaving America. Like I should have stayed and suffered because he couldn't leave with me, if that makes any sense. But that's what grief does. It makes you feel all these weird things. Depression, the difference between America and here was as I began to appreciate life here and notice things and allow myself to accept these differences, depression became less and less and less. And it got replaced with hope, optimism, expectation. Through Nomad School and having known your work, known what you did with YouTube and then starting the school, I felt like I had gotten connected to the first real community here that I could get support from, or I could relate. And that's how I met Scott and a couple of others. Even though we talked a lot over line, we didn't necessarily always meet in person, but I would speak to other members and we got to share our experiences for why we were here. And one of the things that I really, really, really kind of glued me into the reality that this was supposed to happen in my life was when we all talked about the spiritual side, the vibe, the energy, and we all seemed to agree that that's something that's real here. That Chiang Mai is a place for sensitives to come to And I guess we get trained here, or we learn to hone our skills or energies better. But everything was just lining up. Now, mind you, coming from grief, coming from a sense of immense loss, not knowing how to put your life back together again, in a brand new, strange place where you don't know a soul. I came here alone. I don't speak the language. I didn't realize what a chance I took. I didn't realize what I had done in grief. Would I have done this if I was clear-minded? Would I have just given away everything I own and come someplace I'd never been before? I don't know. I don't think I would have done that. Logic would have said, don't do that. All these things can go wrong. But something else replaced that logic with, this is where you need to be, and I'm here. So the Digital Nomad School, the YouTube videos together played a significant role in making me feel like this was a place that I could come to and continue my life and actually build in my life. Trust me, the ideas of being on YouTube or coaching again, all of those ideas that you and I have talked about would not have happened because I had given up on life. I thought I had nothing else to bring forth left. The freedom to explore your life at this stage, at this age, is not something many people are fortunate enough to be given this opportunity. I can do a lot of different things here. I would not have had this inspiration if it weren't for the Digital Nomad School and me hearing from other members what they're doing, what led them here, or to travel to other, because they're not all in Chiang Mai, some are in different places, but they all have a story. And you would think, listening to someone talk about how they travel by themselves, at the surface, it sounds like, oh, they must have been really unhappy at home, must not have had a lot of love. Why would you leave your whole family and your friends? But the reality is, it's a way of loving yourself. It's a way of exploring what's really in you, because you drop yourself in these situations and you have to rise to the expectations. You have to produce, you have to perform, and you have to make it work. Otherwise, you're just going to run back home. You're going to just run back to what you're familiar with and say, okay, I tried it, I give up on it. I have a chance, an opportunity to completely redefine myself and present myself here as a new person. And Chiang Mai, this move has healed me. It's healed me through my grief. I still miss Travis terribly, but I don't pain over his loss. Depression is going to always be a part of my physiology, but it's no longer empowered to hit me the same way it did in America. It doesn't have anything to feed off of. It can't hit me about worries about, oh, how am I going to pay the rent this month? It can't hit me with, oh, what's my health going to do this month? I'm too overweight. My blood pressure's too high. All of that has changed. I've lost weight. I'm healthy. My cholesterol has gone down. My hypertension has corrected itself. Kidney disease has corrected itself. I've lost nearly 40 pounds. Not by going to a gym, not by changing my diet that much, but I'm not stress eating anymore like I used to. I'm not trying to feed the depression to feel better anymore like I used to have to do. I'm happy to wake up. I like to go outside. I like to be seen. I don't think people are looking at me and judging me harshly anymore. Racism in America, I lived my life in America believing I wasn't experiencing racism. And the reason why I believe that is because nobody came in my face and said racist things to me, because that's what I thought racism was. I thought it was somebody attacking you directly because of your race. I didn't understand and realize that it's systemic.
What would you say to people that think Thailand's a racist country?
That's what I'm about to go to now, because in my research, of course, that was one of the first questions that I asked. I wanted to understand what I was going to experience here. I was constantly told, no, there's no racism. Everything that came back to me in America when I was searching about Chiang Mai and racism against people of African descent, I'm being told, no, it doesn't exist. I get here and I understand why why I was told, no, it doesn't exist. It does exist, but it's not the racism that we all talk about from the American perspective. It doesn't exist with hatred. It doesn't exist with discrimination. It doesn't exist with bias. So I'm treated the same way that you're treated. It only exists from the perspective of naivety and ignorance. I don't see your kind of people often. I don't interact with your kind of people often. I don't really understand. So when I see you, I'm going to watch. I'm going to stare. Because I'm trying to understand, other than the color, how else are we different? Because I don't understand. That's what I get from Thai people. It's not oh, I hate you. I don't want you in my store. Or I don't want you living in my neighborhood. That's not what it is. Oh, you're less than me. I'm superior because I'm Thai and you're not. That's not what I'm getting. I want you to have less access to fairness than I get because I'm privileged. That's not what I'm getting. What I'm getting is, oh, your hair. Can my hair do this too? Yeah, your hair can do this too. This is my response. Oh, does the sun hurt? It can hurt. Yeah, it's just the color. The sun can still burn, you know. It's not I don't even want to call it racism. Racial difference is what they're trying to understand and figure out. And if you come from being the product of direct racism, then yes, when you see someone staring at you a certain kind of way, it's only going to read one way initially, because that's what you're used to seeing. So if I'm dark-skinned black and I'm walking in one of the malls and people are constantly looking at me and staring and leaning forward to see more, sure, I feel sometimes self-conscious, like, okay, I wish they would stop staring at me, because staring is rude. You know, they don't seem to understand that, so they stare. But I have to remind myself of why they're staring. And it's not because you inward, you don't belong here, this is our place. That's not what it is. It's, wow, I haven't seen anyone that looks like you before. Or I see people like you so infrequently. I'm just curious because you are different and I am different. You know, a lot of people ask about these rings because Thai people typically don't wear jewelry around. Well, in my culture, where I come from, I've always worn gold in rings. Since I was a kid, I've been wearing gold rings. To me, it's not because it's gold, it's the metal, the material vibrates with my energy. I don't wear silver, I don't wear anything else. Gold is what vibrates with me. And when people see it, I guess they don't always know how to receive me. They don't know if I'm some rich African from some African nation or if I'm a celebrity in America. So they stare at me trying to figure out who or what I might be. And that's not racism. That's not being racist. And it can look similar because of the way they stare, but it's not what it is. So I can understand why some people may come here and not give it that kind of insight and thought and perceive racism, but it's not racism. When I go to those same people who are staring at me, their immediate response is a smile and welcoming. They're not, get away from me. I don't like your kind of people. That's not what I get. I get invited into their table. I get invited into their home or into a conversation. That's not what racism does. Racism rejects you.
John, what is next for you?
What's next for me is life in Chiang Mai and trusting the energies and the vibes and the purposes that I was brought or led here. Clearly, something has been trying to get me here for years. I don't believe anything that happened by accident. I now believe that Travis was more of a guardian angel for me. His time with me was supposed to be temporary. He was a soulmate. If he had not have passed away when he did, we would still be in Las Vegas right now. I know that for a fact. We look at loss of life like a tragedy, but we don't know what spiritual realm above us is doing. Maybe there's a fly. Maybe they took him from me because this was the time that I needed to be here and I wouldn't have come here otherwise. Going forward in Chiang Mai is going to be all about me discovering what's in me and what I need to bring out of me to benefit other people. So coaching could be in my future. YouTube is in my future. Teaching is definitely in my future now. These are not plans that I had when I came here. I didn't have a plan. But things are just naturally falling together. I'm meeting people who are all lined up in these same areas. And they're all welcoming me, and they're all offering me support and advice and guidance. Something good is going to happen. If you ask me right now, like you just did, what my plans are, all I can tell you is I have no plans on leaving Chiang Mai. I love it here. This city hugs me. The energies hug me. I feel good about getting up every day and coming out. But I also know that this is a staging place. This is a place where I'm supposed to get all of these things lined up together. And who knows where I'm going to end up next.
Well, on that note, thank you so much for sharing your story. And before we leave, could you just, if you wouldn't mind, could you look at the camera?
Yes.
And perhaps for those who are on the fence and thinking about kind of pursuing the type of lifestyle that you've gone down, kind of what would be your message to them?
My message to you is trust your instincts, your gut feelings. Chiang Mai calls people. Thailand calls people. If you're feeling or even entertaining the idea of coming here, do it. It's not just Chiang Mai or Thailand. We all have different purposes in life. And moving around might not be, the thing that's in the forefront of your mind. But just do it. Take the chance and do it. Because once you begin doing it and you find yourself in a different place, everything will start to make sense. You'll start to understand why you had to go to that place. Being a digital nomad is like a gift because you're free. You can support yourself while exploring your existence in this world, all around this world. And you're going to gain so much. You're going to pick up so many different skills and talents and discover so much about your own energies, your own purpose here on this earth. You're going to meet people and you're going to realize that you were sent there because someone needed you or something needed you or you needed someone. So don't talk yourself out of it. Don't fear it. I know it's not always the easiest thing to do, but the way I got here tells me I was going to end up here regardless. Life kept pushing me here. And I finally just gave in and said, okay, enough is enough. I've heard it enough. Time for me to adhere to it, to take what I've been hearing and follow through with it. And I have no regrets.
Thank you very much, John.
Thank you.
Cheers.